Hi, I'm Mara, and this is the story of how a so-called girls' trip became the moment I stopped apologizing for existing and started rewriting what family meant to me. They said it would bring us closer, but by the time the sun set on that vineyard, I was already being edited out. One glance, one silence, one missing key at a time. Before we go any further, tell me, have you ever felt like an outsider in your own family? If yes, comment number 1. If no, comment number 0. This is a family drama you don't want to miss. They said the trip would bring us closer again, but for me, it was just another well-dressed goodbye. Mom knocked just once, then let herself in like she always did. Her arms were full, a banana cream pie in a glass dish wrapped with foil, and the same gentle smile she used at bake sales. The rain had just stopped, and the scent of damp pavement drifted through the screen door. I was still barefoot, folding laundry in the living room, when she walked in and placed the pie on the counter without a word. "You've been cutting coupons again," she said, glancing at the stack beside the sugar tin. I nodded and folded another dish towel. "They still work." She smiled politely, avoiding eye contact, and reached for the chipped mug she usually ignored. That was new. I poured her coffee, and we sat in the quiet clink of porcelain and rainfall dripping from the eaves. Across the yard, Mr. Landry was mowing, even though the grass was soaked. "Celeste is planning a girls' trip to Carmel," Mom said finally, as if she were announcing the pie's ingredients. "Over Labor Day weekend. She thought it'd be nice if you came." "Nice," I repeated, my voice neutral. "She's really trying. Vivian's going. You haven't seen her since Thanksgiving." I remembered that dinner, Vivian's arm around Celeste, their laughter bouncing over mine like I was furniture. I stirred honey into my tea slowly, letting the silence answer for me. Mom shifted. "It'll be good for everyone, just like old times." I didn't ask which old times she meant. Later that evening, I got the text from Celeste. "We'll keep it chill. Wine, sun, no drama. Promise. No emojis." That was supposed to mean she was serious. I didn't reply right away. I walked into the bedroom and opened the closet, pulling down my old navy suitcase. The zipper stuck for a second before releasing with a small sigh. I reached for the sweater Dad used to say made me look like home. I hadn't worn it in years, but it still smelled faintly of lavender and something warmer, like old hugs and wood smoke. Sitting on the edge of my bed, I pulled up his last voicemail, the one I couldn't delete. His voice crackled in that soft, careful way he always had when emotions were too big for words. "You don't need to be loud to be brave. Just steady." I played it twice. She opens her suitcase, folding the sweater her dad once said made her look like home. The vineyard shimmered in sunset gold. And somehow, I'd never felt smaller. We'd barely been at the Airbnb for an hour when I was handed a folded blanket and pointed toward the futon in the corner of the living room. "You're the smallest," Celeste said with a breezy smile, already halfway up the stairs with her monogram duffel. I didn't argue. I never did. The house smelled like sea salt and eucalyptus, with flower boxes lining the windowsills. It was charming, like something pulled from a magazine spread labeled Coastal Rustic. I tried to settle in, unpacking only the essentials, pretending it didn't matter that my bed folded in half when no one was looking. Celeste had rented a car. On the drive down, she tossed a glance over her sunglasses and said, "Just be chill this time, okay?" As if I had a reputation for stirring things up. I nodded then, too. Dinner was at a vineyard bistro with white tablecloths and flickering candles. The kind of place where the silverware was too heavy and everything smelled faintly of time. Vivian arrived in a dress that could have been a curtain in another life, loud and floral. "Still saving the world on a shoestring, Mara?" she asked before I'd even sat down. "You're so noble." I offered a tight smile. "Actually, we just helped a woman get out of a situation she thought she'd never escape." "That's intense," Rena cut in, adjusting her silk scarf. "We're on vacation." I looked down at my menu, trying not to shrink. The wine flowed. Celeste held court, talking about a fundraiser she hosted, how the mayor's wife asked for her peach tart recipe. I offered to take a group photo when the golden light hit just right. "Thanks," she said without looking. "Behind the camera suits you." The food arrived. Seared salmon, fig salad, peach tart for dessert. I pushed my wine glass aside. My appetite had left quietly after the first course. When I finally spoke, nothing harsh, just a small correction about the case I'd mentioned, Celeste sighed loudly like I'd dropped a plate. "You always make it weird," she muttered. The table hushed, for a second. Then Vivian laughed, and the others followed, letting the sound stretch and roll over me like I wasn't there. The waiter slid the check toward me discreetly, and with it, a small chocolate wrapped in gold foil. I didn't look up. I walked outside into the crisp night. A text buzzes. "We're heading back. Meet you at the house. Don't overthink." The front porch smelled like salt and rosemary, but all I felt was absence. The lights were off, the windows dark. I stepped up carefully, suitcase in hand, the wheels thudding against the wooden steps. I tried the doorknob. Locked. I fished in my coat pocket for the key card, but it was missing. My stomach dropped. Taped to the door was a note, handwritten in neat block letters. "Your group checked out early. Keys inside." That was it. No name, no time. Just absence, printed politely. I pulled out my phone. No missed calls, no new messages. I opened the group chat, Amalfi Angels, and stared at a blank screen. The name had vanished. I wasn't in the group anymore. I tapped over to Instagram. Celeste had just posted a photo. She and Vivian stood at a wine tasting, glasses raised. The caption read, "Freedom." Joyce had liked it. Of course she had. I stood there in the dark until the porch light blinked off automatically. My phone buzzed, 4% battery. I didn't know whether to cry or laugh. My hand trembled as I shoved it into my pocket. The salt air made my eyes sting, but I didn't blink. I walked. Past a bakery with closed shutters, a small bookstore with wind chimes clinking against the door. I found the diner by accident, drawn in by the glow of red neon and the soft hum of Ella Fitzgerald wafting through the vents. The sign said "Open late," the kind of place built for people who didn't know where else to go. Inside, the booths were vinyl, the napkin dispensers dented. A waitress with tired eyes and a denim apron stitched with an L was wiping down the counter. "Phone's dying," I said quietly, holding it up like an apology. "Could I?" She handed me a charger without a word. Then, after a moment, set down a fresh cup of tea. Chamomile. I didn't ask for it, but I didn't have the heart to refuse either. She sat down across from me. "Rough night?" she asked gently. I nodded. "My sister left me here." She tilted her head slightly. "I got left once, too. Took me years to stop calling it a misunderstanding." I stared at the tea, steam curling into the low light. My phone buzzed again. An email from Maeve, my old roommate. "You need to see this," it said. Attached was a screenshot, a group chat. "Celeste. She's deadweight. We needed space." I stare at the screen. "They erased me," I whispered. "Lena. Then rewrite it." "They abandoned me, including my sister." Did they do that because they thought I was invisible? Or did they find me annoying and leave me behind? Oh, what should I do? If you sympathize with me, please leave a comment number 9 in the comment section below. Now, let's get to the next development of this story. You're Mara, right? We went to school together. You once chased down a kid for stealing my sketchbook. I turned, blinking in the soft light of the bookstore cafe. He had a kind face, a little older now, with the kind of beard that softened a jawline rather than sharpened it. His voice held a trace of recognition that pulled something loose in my memory. Eli? I asked, my own voice unsure. He smiled, nodding. Eli Kessler, 6th grade. You had that yellow raincoat and always sat in the back row. I laughed before I meant to. And you used to draw robots in the margins of your math tests. I still do, he said, lifting his coffee. Drip with cream, simple. He gestured to the seat across from him. Join me? The morning had started quietly. I woke in a small inn that smelled like pine cleaner and old quilts. On the counter was a brown paper bag. Inside, a muffin and a note from Lena. Keep walking. I did. The cafe was tucked between a bead shop and a gallery. Inside, the chairs didn't match. The tables wobbled, and the scent of cinnamon rolls floated through a record player's jazz. I'd just plugged in my phone when Eli had spotted me. I always wondered what happened to you, he said. Then I saw that post going around. Didn't connect the dots until now, but it made sense. He paused. You still help people? I nodded. Legal aid clinic. Domestic violence cases mostly. He leaned forward. You helped me once. That sketchbook. Those were the only drawings I showed anyone back then. I never forgot that you chased those kids down. No one else did that. I didn't know what to say. My throat tightened at the idea that something I did so quietly could have stayed with someone for years. I run a documentary series now, he continued. It's called Restorations. We feature stories that almost got lost. Forgotten people. Places that mattered but slipped through the cracks. I met his eyes, unsure. He took a breath. If you want to write something, your version, I'll publish it. It won't fix what they did, but it might help you own what comes next. I stared into my cup of rooibos tea, letting the steam rise slowly into the air. I hesitates, then asks, Do you really think people want to hear from someone they tried to forget? Eli. I remembered. They called me dramatic. I called it survival. And this time, I wrote it all down. The desk lamp in my room cast a soft circle of light, warming the edge of my teacup. Outside, the wind pushed gently through the cracked window, carrying the scent of salt and far-off pine. I stared at the blinking cursor, fingers hovering, heart loud in the quiet. I didn't plan to write much, just the truth. Not just about the porch or the locked door, but the slow drip of being unseen. The years of being edited out of dinners, stories, group photos. The ache of watching my mother like a photo on someone else's wall. Familiar, but unreachable. I wrote about the group chat, the post Celeste made, the one Mom liked without asking if I was okay. I didn't try to make anyone look bad. I just told it straight. Before I hit post, I attached a photo. Just the empty porch, faded paint, rosemary in a clay pot knocked slightly askew. No caption, no hashtags, just the truth. Then I clicked. The first hour, nothing. Then a few likes, then comments. Dozens, then hundreds. This happened to me too. You just put my silence into words. My sister did the same thing. Thank you for saying it out loud. I turned off the screen for a while. Took a walk past the plaza. A street artist was painting waves in slow, purposeful strokes. I left a 5 in his tip jar and kept walking. He didn't see me, but that didn't matter. When I got back, my phone buzzed. Voicemail from Mom. You're embarrassing us. This isn't how families fix things. An email from Celeste. Take it down, or you'll regret it. And a message from HR. We're placing you on temporary leave. Concerns were raised by a family member regarding your emotional stability while abroad. I felt the tremor start in my chest, but it stopped cold. I attached the therapist's letter from last year. I added screenshots of Celeste's group chat. Her words, not mine. Then I typed, "Stability isn't the absence of pain. It's standing up while it still hurts." I sent it, then opened a blank message to Eli. "Let's do it. I'm ready to be heard." Her phone buzzes. New email from Joyce. "I'm coming to see you." She asked if this was how it ends. I told her it was how I begin. Mom sat beside me on the bench, the ocean behind us breathing in long, even rhythms. The sky was soft lavender, the kind of color that made you quiet without knowing why. She clutched her purse like it held something fragile, though she hadn't opened it once. "I didn't tell them to leave you," she said after a while, her voice thin, as if the words had to squeeze through too many layers to get out. I nodded. "But you didn't stop them either." She looked down at her lap, fingers whirring the seam of her sleeve. "I thought it would blow over, like before." "I used to think that too," I said gently, "but if I didn't speak now, I'd vanish for good." We sat in the silence that followed. Not cold, just empty. She didn't argue, didn't apologize either. Maybe she couldn't. Maybe that was its own kind of answer. When she stood to leave, she touched my shoulder, barely. Then she walked back toward the inn, her figure folding into the sea mist like a page closing. I stayed until the sun dipped below the horizon. Then I walked toward the train station, my suitcase trailing a soft thud over the brick path. The eucalyptus trees rustled overhead, whispering things I didn't need to decipher. At the platform, Lena was waiting, holding something small. "You left this," she said, offering my wallet. "Thought you might need it." "Thank you," I murmured, surprised. She smiled faintly. "Thanks for being kind when no one else was." We didn't hug, but it felt like goodbye anyway. My phone buzzed just as the train lights came into view. A message from Eli. "You'll always have a place to write with us." I smiled, slipping the phone into my coat pocket. I climbed aboard, found a seat by the window, the cushions soft under me. The conductor tipped his cap as he passed. I leaned back, pressed play on my dad's old voicemail one last time. "You're my favorite kind of storm. Quiet, but unstoppable." I rested my hand on the old watch he left me, its face frozen at 4:17. The train jolted gently. Wind tousled my hair through the open window. They left me behind. But I'm not lost. I'm found. And finally, I'm mine. The sea breeze that evening wasn't colder than usual, but it felt gentler, as if the world had finally stopped asking me to explain myself. I didn't leave with answers or apologies, just a suitcase and the steady rhythm of my own voice at last. Sometimes, quiet kindness echoes longer than the loudest betrayal. The ones we overlook often carry the deepest strength, not because they shout, but because they stay. And when we stop judging people by their silence, their clothes, or the way they fold into a room, we finally start seeing them. If this story has stayed with you, maybe it's for a reason. Somewhere nearby, someone is still waiting to be heard, without needing to raise their voice.